How you guys doing? Hey, did you hear the one about the hiker who forgot his Zoloft? Yeah, he wasn't a happy camper. How you guys doing? Welcome to Off Field. I'm Nate Jackson. You guys ready to talk draft? You ready to talk Broncos? Let's do this. Bam!
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Bam!
Is that your new catchphrase?
Bam!
Yeah. Well, I haven't had a
Bam.
catchphrase yet, but I'm Scott Shaffer. That's former Denver Bronco tight end Nate Jackson. Nate,
Bam!
is Emerald Lagasse. That's what you are. You're Emerald. Remember, wasn't he Bam? Or was
Yeah.
he Bang?
I don't know.
I think he's Bam.
Oh, okay.
But you're stealing his
I'll
stuff.
be
He's going to
Emerald.
sue you.
Yeah.
You're toast, bud.
That joke, was that it? No, I wrote that one.
Oh, you wrote that one? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About the camper who forgot his Zoloft?
No, not
Oh,
that
no,
one.
I
I'm
mean the
saying
hiker. Yeah.
I mean, you are a dad, so the dad jokes come off.
I was
flawlessly.
but I was telling dad jokes before I was a dad.
I love dad jokes.
Yeah.
People kind of think that they're better than them, and I don't agree with that.
When you write jokes, do you write dad jokes? Like,
I've written dad jokes
because
before.
I've seen your comedy and there's not a lot of dad
Not
jokes.
a lot of dad jokes, but if I'm throwing out a dad joke on stage, it's coming. Following it is going to be like a right,
Right.
because
Yeah.
I need people to know I knew it was cheeky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it was corny.
Are there comedians who only tell dad jokes?
Oh, I'm sure there are. I'm sure.
But no one likes
I'm sure
them.
there's like some corporate clean comedians who make way more money than I ever will, and I bet they do that, and I bet they make a killing. Unfortunately,
Who is the most what what's the hottest comedian out there right now?
I'd say Nate Bargatze.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's headlining everything. He's now in commercials. He's
Yeah.
probably gonna have a show sometime
He
soon.
was on SNL.
SNL. Yeah, he's great. I've opened for Nate.
Oh, yeah.
Bargatze. I have, and compared to Nate, I am the filthiest comic in the world.
Oh, really?
Just disgusting.
He doesn't tell dirty jokes.
Nope, he's a very clean comic, and he's a very kind of like stoic and cerebral, and yeah, very one of the best.
And you're not stoic or cerebral.
No, I'm manic. I'm sweating on stage, and it's chaos.
Well, we hope you're sweating by the end of this show.
That's right. I hope I am too, because we're gonna talk some draft.
Yeah, can't wait.
Well, tell everyone where the draft is.
So
Next
the
week?
draft, the draft is next week. It's on Thursday, and I know there's a lot of other stories going on in Denver sports right now. Nuggets,
Yep.
Fired their coach,
Lot going on.
going into the playoffs.
We discussed
I
that
know
last
Stan
week a little
Kroenke's
bit.
talking right now. Yeah.
Yep.
So thanks for joining us if you are joining us, because there's other stuff going on. But the Broncos are always the biggest story in town.
Absolutely.
And the Broncos, well, the NFL drafts on Thursday of
Mhm.
next week. That's the opening night. That's the first round only.
Yeah.
You remember back in the day, it just used to be 2 days. It
2
was
days.
Saturday
In New
and it
York.
was Sunday.
Yeah.
And
In a little ballroom.
and then they stretched it to 3.
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And now they have it Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's over
Yeah.
on Saturday.
Do you think they put it on television like this because of all the Jets and Giants fans who would always show up in New York and just boo whoever they drafted? Because I feel like they need that. Oh, we can get that anywhere, and that's why they're bouncing around now.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, no, they like to appeal to the smaller markets.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get
like
much
Kansas
smaller
City.
than Green Bay.
Yeah, they're going to Green Bay. They went to Kansas City last year, or a couple
2 years
years ago.
Yep.
And so it's part of the NFL's genius, really,
It really is.
to kind of take over the off season.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just football is not just big when the games are being played.
Sure.
They have found a way to commercialize and make every moment along the calendar a made-for-TV
You
event.
will not forget about the NFL in the offseason.
The
They won't let you.
The combine,
Yeah.
is a national TV event.
Absolutely.
The freaking CU Buffs Pro Day was on
Yeah.
national television.
Hey, I
You
went
know
to just this last weekend. I went to a spring game
Oh,
in Maryville, Missouri,
Why?
for Northwest Missouri State.
why the hell did you do that?
Because my nephew's going there next year.
Oh, that's
and so, but even them on a small level are just like, hey, remember us? Come tailgate.
Yeah.
We'll give you a little spring game action. We'll introduce some next year's recruits and all that kind of stuff. I liked it. And NFL is just doing that on acid, basically.
And you were basically like, you had me at tailgate.
I bought like $120. Yeah, 100%. About $120 worth of merch. I was ready to go.
Really?
Oh yeah. I'm a Bearcat now.
Yeah. So football is the most popular sport in
Yeah.
the country by far. And the NFL knows that, and they're a genius in the way they market it. And the draft is one of those moments. I mean,
Last year, everyone knew quarterback. There was kind of debate on who the quarterback would be that was going to be selected. You
I was a
you
Bo
did-
Nix
You
guy.
predicted Bo Nix.
yes, I did,
So
because I am a
you have
soothsayer. I am a
Oh.
clairvoyant.
Oh yeah, you have a crystal ball.
I do.
You do.
I have 2 of them.
The Crystal? Were you in an accident? had to get him replaced and went to Vegas.
Yes,
and
yes. They're like a glass eye.
There's fish floating around in them. Yeah. Okay, so last year everyone knew quarterback. What do you think this year that first position will be taken with the 20th pick?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think nobody.
Punter?
Yeah, they're going punter.
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Although they are going to be looking for a punter, Scott.
That's fun.
They are. They let their guy go, Riley Dixon.
Mm-hmm.
And they signed another guy who's relatively unproven, and he'll be in competition with whoever they draft.
Sure.
Even if it's a first rounder,
Yeah.
it'll be a punter competition.
But
no, I think it's I don't even know if they know yet.
Sure.
Because there's some scenarios that could exist, like where a guy falls to them at 20 that they didn't think would be available.
Sure.
And that makes them scrap their plans, or they trade up, or they trade back.
Yeah.
There's a lot of scenarios that could exist. There are some positions of need. Clearly, running back is one of them.
Yep.
But then you hear that this is a very deep running back draft. So do you want to use your first round pick on a running back if there's going to be really good comparable running backs in rounds 2, 3, 4, and 5?
People have been even throwing a wide receiver in there.
People throwing wide receiver.
More help for Bo Nix.
Yeah, the guy from Arizona whose name I cannot pronounce.
Oh, no.
If
you can't do it, I can't do it either.
He's like 6'5",
Big
really
target.
good. Yeah, but I don't know if he's like the guy here.
Sure.
Because I think the Broncos, if you're going to go for a receiver, you need a route runner, a guy who can run every route in the tree. They don't have that guy.
Yeah.
Cortland Sutton's not that guy. And so if they were to get the guy from Arizona, he's a Polynesian dude. He and Cortland, I think, have similar playing styles.
So instead of having two of Cortland Sutton, you
I love Cortland Sutton.
Yeah. Cortland, didn't you want one of Cortland and one of someone else? Basically,
Yeah, that's why I thought that what's his nuts who went to Seattle from the Rams, Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
A guy like him who's just
Sure.
jack of all trades receiver, a guy who can run every route in the route tree. Stephon Diggs, even though Stephon Diggs is kind of cancerous in the locker room, apparently.
Also kind of injury prone too.
He tore his ACL last year, but 5 months after an ACL tear, he's actually looking pretty good. So, but a guy like him who's can run every route in the route tree, I think that's the receiver that they need to find.
Yeah.
Because Marvin Mims isn't that guy, in my opinion.
Speed guy.
Marvin Mims is a speed guy, gadget guy, return guy, but not a real route runner yet. Maybe he'll learn to be that guy, but I haven't seen the sort of shifty, quick twitch stuff from him, route running wise, to believe that he's going to be that route runner. So anyway, will they find that guy, or do they already have it? I mean, do they think that Troy Franklin could turn into that guy, or Devon Vele can turn into that guy? So I don't know what they're thinking of receiver. I would be surprised if they drafted a receiver in the first round.
Sure.
I think it could be a tight end. It could be a running back. I also think sneaky, it could be a corner. Because to me, as well as Riley Moss played last year, I don't think you can count on him being there, being available, just because his injury history and he's proven it for about 7 or 8 games. But everywhere else on that defense, and I think there's some interior lineman questions or at least needs that you could bolster it. Maybe they get a D lineman stud in the first round. But I guess what I'm saying is I wouldn't be surprised if they draft a corner in the first round.
You're already wearing a hat right now, but put on your GM hat. What would you, let's say nothing crazy, no crazy scenarios happen up until the night before the 19th pick. What do you think they're going to do with that 20th pick? What would you do with the 20th pick? What do you think they need the most?
I think they need a running back. Yeah, I do think they need a running back or a tight end, because Evan Ingram is a guy that they signed as a joker. The joker is supposed to be the guy who creates mismatches on offense, right? The guy who has superior receiving skills at a position where you're not a receiver.
Yeah.
You're a tight end or a running back. You run routes and catch passes like a receiver. That puts the defense in a bind. They think they have that in Evan Ingram, but he's over 30 years old and he has had a lot of injuries.
Sure.
So what are you planning for the future here? I think they have to draft the tight end of the future for this team.
Yeah.
And I think that would be an awesome first round pick. Tight ends.
You're also kind of biased. You're a tight end.
Well, but
former tight end.
Yeah, former tight end. Former tight end. I am biased.
That's right.
But I also know how valuable a tight end is to a team. A tight end who's not just a joker, but a guy who can put his hand in the dirt and block.
So let's talk about the joker.
Not like Travis Kelce, who's a one-dimensional tight end and the
most famous tight end ever. But
yeah, that's true. Famous.
It's because of Taylor.
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing is, so explain more about like what the Joker kind of role means. Does that mean that people are gonna, obviously you said catch balls, run routes, yards after catch, but also does that mean the defense is gonna focus on him and that gets more balls to other people? More catches to other
Look
people.
at you just
Telling you what,
expanding your
guys.
because
I'm gonna learn a lot here.
Yeah. So Sean Payton,
we're just getting names wrong over here.
Sean Payton really likes to fuck with the defense by creating mismatches, packages that cater to the strengths of his players, and also put defenses in a bind and confuse them.
Yeah.
And so when you have a player who teams are keying on, it opens up other areas, and other players. And you set things up with certain routes in the first half. You exploit them in the second half by changing them, double moves, and getting guys running one way, and then you go the other way.
Sure.
And so a joker as a tight end, Evan Ingram gives you the opportunity to do that. I tell this story often about after I got cut by the Broncos, I got several workouts that summer. One of them was in New Orleans. And this was in 2009. It was the end of my career. They had an injury at tight end at the very end of training camp. And they needed a veteran tight end to come in and be able to play right away.
Yeah.
And so I got called to go do this workout. There was Jeb Poutsier, who was my interview last week on Dumb Jock. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Okay, great episode. Jeb was very forthright about his post-concussion syndrome and the things he's dealt with physically after the game and some of the healing methods that he's found, medical and plant medicine wise.
Mm-hmm.
Ayahuasca.
Oh, nice.
And psilocybin has really helped him.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so check out Dumb Jock at Gorilla and on our YouTube page. But I was at this workout with Jeb Poutsier, this guy Daniel Wilcox, who had been in the league for a while, and one other fellow I don't remember. But the unusual part of this workout was that whereas I'd had some workouts in previous weeks, one in Philly, Cleveland, a scout was out there, some random guy was throwing us the ball.
Sure.
But we went out to New Orleans, the four of us, and Sean Payton was out there telling us what routes to run, and Drew Brees was out there throwing us the ball. And
it's got to make a world of difference, right?
Well, it made me understand that this was not just some fucking workout.
Yeah.
They needed a guy.
This meant that they needed it. Yeah.
They needed a guy, and they needed a guy to be able to do the things they asked him to do. And they had us run like 4 or 5 different seam routes. And a seam is just right down the middle of the field, but it's not just right down the middle of the field. You have certain landmarks based on the coverage and the number of safeties back there. Mm. But the seam is a very important route in the Sean Payton system. It attacks the middle of the field between the hashes, which is a vulnerable area for the defense. We haven't seen the Broncos offense attacking down the middle of the field in a long time.
Yeah.
But historically, Sean Payton does that really well and hasn't been able to do it since he's here. That's why Evan Ingram is here. Not just to catch the underneath routes and do the little tricky stuff, but to take the top off the defense down the field and create a vertical threat from the tight end position who can run past linebackers and safeties. That's what Evan Ingram is going to do. But also, when you have a guy doing that and the defense knows it, well, they turn and run, and then it opens up everything underneath for other routes. And so there's a ripple effect for having a guy like him. But to go back to the question about the number 20 pick, it doesn't have to, it could be a running back with those superior skills as well, right? Because they don't have that guy. I think Jaleel McLaughlin could be, I don't know if they know, I think he's that guy yet or not. But to me, that number 20 pick, if they stand pat right at number 20 and pick at number 20, it's going to be a running back, a tight end, or a corner. That's what I think. And I think that you can't go wrong with any of those because, of course, we need help at running back and tight end. Maybe not as bad as running back. I think running back's the most position of need situation the Broncos have. But it's also a very deep running back draft.
Well, that's what I was about to ask. Because it's a deep running back draft, does Sean Payton like to have a big kind of like stable of running backs that he can kind of utilize instead of having one main featured back?
Yeah. So he's usually a thunder and lightning guy, right? Right. I mean, you look at his time in New Orleans. He had
Dash and Smash,
Reggie Bush. And Deuce McAllister, right? Mark Ingram and Darren Sproles. The guy who's going to get you 2 yards on 3rd and on 2, and a guy who's going to be a joker and catch the ball out of a backfield on a screen and take it 60 yards to the house. That's what he wants. He wants both of those guys.
Sure.
He tried to have both of those guys last year, but he didn't know who the Thunder was.
Mm-hmm.
It was either Javonte Williams or it was Audric Estime. Javonte Williams didn't perform at a high level last year. He just didn't. Jaleel McLaughlin showed some spark there, but also didn't really ever get going. And my question is also my question is were the running backs really not there?
Yeah.
Were they not good enough, or did Sean Payton not commit to the run enough? Did he not commit to it at practice enough? Did he not make it an identity of theirs enough? And I don't know the answer to that because I'm not in the building.
Yeah.
I'm not out there at practice. I'm not in meetings. I don't know. But what I do know about my time with the Broncos, and during that time, we had 1,000-yard running back every season.
Sure.
And it was always a different guy.
Yeah.
It was Mike Anderson. It was Clinton Portis. It was Reuben Drones. It was Peyton Hillis. It was Selvin Young. It was Mike Bell. These guys were going off, and you don't even know who these dudes are, right? Even though they were torching the Chiefs.
Peyton Hillis, he was a Chief.
Yeah, was he?
Yeah.
Oh, at the end of his career?
Yeah.
Oh, man. But it wasn't like, obviously they're all talented, but it was about the system. And it was about the dedication to the run and the offensive line being awesome. The Broncos offensive line is freaking awesome. They are really, really good at running the football. They're good at pass protection as well, but they are road grading big ass SOBs who want to get out of their stance and crush you, Scott.
Some big uglies.
That's right. And so the best way to establish aggression right off the bat is to commit to the run and get off the line of scrimmage and rub somebody's in the dirt, Scott. Are the Broncos and Sean Payton committing enough to the running game to allow these running backs to get into a rhythm?
Yes.
My thought is no. Last year, Sean Payton loves to throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
He had to run it on his play sheet.
Yeah, we've mentioned that a couple times.
Right? Like you don't have to, go get a double gin and tonic.
No, that's my drink.
You already know that.
Double tall GNT. Thank you very much.
You already know that.
I already know it.
You don't have to remind yourself.
No.
Okay.
I dream about those things.
And Mike Shanahan didn't have to remind himself to run the football.
Yeah.
He didn't have to run it. He knew that was the identity. So my thing is when we're like, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. Sean Payton doesn't like to run the ball, or at least he runs it to set up the pass.
Sure.
He wants to throw for 500 yards. And also I have a bigger picture question here, and I'm sorry I'm hogging the mic.
I love it.
But now that he's got his jokers, and he's going to get another one at running back, does that mean he's going to get even cuter as a play caller? Is it going to be even more gadgety and different groupy and
I think
not traditional smash mouth? Is it going to be even harder for him to focus on running the ball once he gets his jokers? Once he has more options to throw to, you really think he's now going to go run the ball more?
I think
that's my question when it comes to what he's trying to develop on offense.
I think if he gets cutesy with all these weapons that he's hoping to have with all these jokers in the backfield or the tight end, I see it happening later in the season once he's figured out what he has. And if he feels like he's got those guys that can commit to, something, not just the seam or not just coming and running out of the backfield, but doing that kind of trickery that he's known for, maybe he does kind of lose himself and not run the ball again. Or more, maybe he even writes run it bigger on his play pad because he's got tools now, and he's a gadget guy. He loves that kind of stuff. Yeah, but it's one of those things where I guess he has to figure out if he has those pieces, right? Yeah. Because if you draft a running back right off the bat, you don't know what he's got. I mean, spring training is spring training, but you
should know you should generally know what he's got.
I feel like you get to see it in in an NFL game.
You do, but running backs convert pretty well. Some positions are a little harder from college to pros. Quarterback is one of them because the systems are so much different. But for a running back, you take the ball and you run. Yeah. There's not a lot.
Well, do you take a lot from should Jaleel have a better year this year because he's now 2 years into this system?
Yep.
Yeah. And so if he doesn't get it by this year and kind of impressed, then that's kind of all you need to know, right?
I think they really like Jaleel.
Yeah.
And I think they want him to have a role in this offense. Yeah. My question is, can he be that lightning, to the thunder that comes in?
And you mentioned that they were kind of both lightning at a certain point. There was no thunder and
there was not a lot of thunder.
I mean, lightning.
Right. Like Javonte's supposed to be because he breaks a lot of tackles and things like that, but he's just kind of behind. He just had a burst for a minute there and then fell off. I think he's just his body is just beat up.
Sure.
I'm going to move my GM hat back over the top.
GM hat is forward.
Do you remember over the top?
Cool guy hat. Cool dad.
Cool dad hat.
Backwards.
Do you remember over the top?
I do. the greatest arm wrestling / only arm wrestling movie ever made.
Yeah.
And also, I do
That
remember,
would never get made now.
no, because like, could you imagine proving that you're the greatest arm wrestler ever, and all you do is win a semi? That's all he won.
That's pretty
He
good.
won a semi. Are you
didn't
supposed to
remember
sell
that.
it, or is everyone here a trucker?
You think there's huge money in the arm wrestling championships?
I would hope so.
There's not.
I would sell that semi immediately after, and then go beat up Robert Loggia because he was the bad guy in that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he was the bad grandpa, the rich bad grandpa.
Okay, so you know more about Over the Top than
I love Over the
I was
Top.
expecting.
Because remember, he turns his hat around.
Yeah, that's why I did it. Yeah.
He becomes a different person.
Yeah.
I can't do a Stallone impression. Or else yeah, I'm not good at mimicking.
So where were we?
Well, his name is Lincoln Hawk in that too. It's a great name.
Hawk.
Lincoln Hawk.
That's
and his
good.
hawk, he had a hawk, like kind of like stuck on the top. What's that called? Like on the front of your car, little, how the Jaguar comes off.
Yeah.
He had a hawk on his semi truck.
Oh, cool.
Can we just talk this
hood
movie?
ornament. Hood ornament.
Yeah. A hawk hood ornament that he took to every truck.
That's
Lincoln
cool.
Hawk.
Yeah.
Great action name.
Other underrated action movies.
Oh,
You like the Jean-Claude Van Damme movies?
everyone loves John Claude.
Blood-
Give me Bloodsport.
Bloodsport's
Give
the
me
best one. Yeah.
Give me Bloodsport. Whatever that karate movie was with
Lionheart? No.
what was the one with like where there was like team versus team is like Eric Roberts and
I don't know that
they
one.
lose to the to some other country and then they all start crying and it's very emotional.
Oh, really? I didn't
Yeah.
see that one. What about are you a Steven Seagal guy?
Under Siege, baby. I was about to say Under Siege.
Yeah.
Under Siege is great.
Oh.
Also, if you've never seen a Steven Seagal movie, watch it because he doesn't get hit.
Ever?
He must write these movies because I showed a movie to a friend. I'm like, watch this. He'll never get touched, and he never does. Slowest, fattest guy in the world, just breaking arms.
And it's not unrealistic at all.
No, it's real.
It's real.
This is real stuff. It's real life, baby.
You know what else is real?
What's that?
Storms.
Oh man, they are.
Look at me here. You never know when and where the hail is going to hit when the storm comes, guys. And look, they come out of nowhere. My house got pummeled with it. I got a new roof a while ago. I wish I had waited because now Accurate America can be there for you when the hail comes. The last thing you want to be doing is getting caught scrambling when that does come, battling your neighbors for an appointment, or being left with no other option than one of those storm chasing roofers that come to town and knock on your door. So make a call before the storm, guys. Pick up the phone, call Accurate America, 303-900-ROOF. That's 303-900-ROOF. They'll partner with you on navigating insurance. They'll provide a quick, professional, and knowledgeable service using the latest technology and 3D modeling. And their work is guaranteed as long as you own your home, guys. Don't scramble at the last minute. Call Accurate America at 303-900-ROOF before the storm. Accurate America, experts in roofing and exteriors. Thank you to Accurate America.
You nailed it.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Wow, that was beautiful.
And just like they're going to nail the shingles down on your roof.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
That ribbon ain't going nowhere.
No, it ain't. Yeah, man, I think to kind of talk about a larger draft philosophy that the Broncos and that every single GM and coach, team, or whatever discuss. Are we going for a position of need or are we going for best player available?
Yeah.
I'm a best player available guy.
Sure.
Okay. Because I've seen what just drafting the best player that's out there can do for your team. And a lot of people are like, okay, you got to plug the holes on your team. And right now there is a hole at running back. There is a hole at tight end. Sort of.
Yep.
Not as much anymore.
Yeah.
Tight end actually not a huge hole because
You got a lot of
Adam Troutman, a pretty solid tight end.
Yeah.
And he was being asked to do things that, Evan Ingram's going to do this
Sure.
year. So he was, and he did it the best he could. He didn't do a bad job at it.
Yeah.
They just didn't go to the tight end.
Yeah.
And maybe it was Sean Payton didn't feel comfortable with the guys he had in that room. But Lucas Kroll's coming back.
My guy. It's my guy, Mill Valley High School.
Oh,
That's where my nephews went.
Oh, is that right?
In Kansas City. Shawnee, Kansas.
he's a physical specimen.
He's a great athlete, too.
great athlete.
Yeah.
I just feel like he hasn't gotten the opportunities.
Sure.
And that's like something like that was hard for me to watch with those guys because just throw him the freaking ball.
Yeah.
Throw it up to Lucas Kroll. Give
really-
him a fade at the 10-yard line, Scott, and throw it to him and let him go get it.
He's
Because
a big boy.
exactly.
Also, I
Hold
think
on.
No.
I want to talk about the goal line fade.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to score touchdowns in the NFL. But if you have a guy like Lucas Kroll, you have a guy like Cortland Sutton, a guy who's taller, athletic, probably played some basketball in his life,
Yep.
know how to time a ball. Throw the ball up to those guys and let them go get it.
Sure.
Do you remember one play? Well, you didn't. Yeah, I remember when
You're getting
Travis
all
Kelce
worked
caught
up.
a touchdown. Noah Gray's really good. He's got cool tattoos on his arm.
Noah Gray had 4 touchdowns in 2 games.
Who cares?
I do.
I don't.
That was a great game.
Didn't
I did
watch
not
it.
win
Didn't
a
care.
bet on that.
Throw the ball up to your athletes. Go
Yeah.
let 'em, because a 50-50 ball, which is what they call it when you throw it up and there's
Mhm.
2 guys who are going to get it. A 50-50 ball is not 50-50 when I'm taller than you and I'm a receiver and you can't catch and I can.
Okay, so in a goal line situation,
Yeah.
I know and understand it worries about format or formations, but like in a situation where Lucas Kroll's in the game, who would be on him basically? Would it be a corner? Would it be a linebacker?
It would probably not be a corner.
a safety maybe?
It would be a safety or a linebacker.
Yeah.
Now, every once in a while, they'll put a corner out there.
Yeah.
But you know what? The corner's mismatched because he's yay high.
Yeah.
He's like this guy, you know? I'm small.
The safety's usually a little taller.
A little, but not
I said-
much.
I know, but that's what I'm saying.
They're
It's still a
6 foot.
mismatch.
They're 6 foot.
Yeah.
And Lucas Kroll's what? 6'5",
Mhm.
6'6"? It's easy work.
Yeah.
If I'm Lucas Kroll, I'm saying this is easy work.
Yep.
Throw me the ball, but you got to rep it, practice. You got to practice it, and then feel like comfortable doing it in the games. And Sean Payton hasn't for whatever reason with those guys. And so part of me is just has been frustrated at the lack of effort putting into just try to get those guys
Yeah.
going. However, he didn't feel comfortable with it. The personnel group in the room, that's fine. Bo Nix was a rookie last year. We have to extend him some leniency for that because he's still figuring things out. The playbook probably was a little smaller last year than it's going to be this year. But
So you are a best player available guy.
yeah,
Can that be a thing in the first round where
Of
you're
course,
at 20
of
and there's
course.
still
of course, because
or is it a later round thing is what
no,
I'm asking.
it's all at all times.
Yeah.
If there's a guy, that falls to you
Mhm.
that you thought was going to get drafted early, you think he's a freaking stud.
Yeah.
There's a corner out there you think is a freaking stud,
Sure.
but you are sure he's going to be gone. And then he falls to you. You need a running back.
Mhm.
You actually thought you were going to draft a running back at 20. You thought you were going to get this guy or a tight end at this guy.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, this corner is available. You get him.
Yeah.
Because of what he does to the entire team. And I'm going to give you an example of that.
Yep. Let's hear it.
Champ Bailey, when we traded for Champ Bailey, he came in, and it wasn't just what he did on the field for the defense. It was what he did for us on offense. I
Mhm.
got to practice against Champ every day. We all did as a receiver, so
Yeah.
we all got better. The quarterback gets better because he has to practice against Champ every day and figure out how to beat that guy. I can't throw away from Champ at practice every day. I got to throw at the guys I'm supposed to throw to. I have to work and find a way to beat Champ.
Yeah.
The defensive backs who are in the room with him every day get to learn from what he does and try to emulate what he does. They get better. The defensive line gets better because Champ is covering longer, so they get to sack the quarterback more. The coaches, it's easier for them to coach because they don't have to spend, and he's an example of how to do it for everyone, so they don't have to explain everything.
Yeah.
George Payton drafted Pat Surtain in his first draft.
Mhm.
George Payton's first draft year. They needed a quarterback at the time, but he drafted a corner.
Mhm.
And they didn't even need a quarterback.
Yeah.
They had signed Ronald Darby. They had signed some other dude. They had depth at corner, and they still decided to draft Pat Surtain. And the effect that he had on the team clearly has been positive.
Yeah.
He's a defensive player of
Player
the
of the
year.
year.
The defense is a top 5 defense. And by the way, the Broncos led the league in sacks last year.
Yeah.
Why? Of course, the defensive line is eating, but so are the DBs. They're covering really well. They're called coverage sacks.
Yep.
So the defense is like, and then the receivers get better from going against Pat every day.
Yeah.
Whereas we needed a quarterback a while ago, and we got over our skis and traded the farm for Russell Wilson because we were desperate for
Sure.
that position of need.
Yeah.
Right. And look how that worked out.
Sure.
It didn't at all. It derailed. It got Nathaniel Hackett fired, and obviously we're still eating the money. The best player available will make your team better
Yeah.
everywhere. Drafting a position of need, sometimes you overdraft
Mhm.
because you're like, we need that. We need this position. This guy, we have. Let me put it this way. Let's say you're drafting number 20.
Yep.
The position of need guy, you have him at an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
But the best player available guy that falls to you, you have him as a 9
10.
out of 10
Yeah,
player.
yeah.
So you're either drafting an 8 out of 10 player to fill a position of need or a 9 out of 10 player to join your team.
Yep.
Who makes your team better?
Yeah, the 9 out of 10.
That's what I think.
And
So-
I think that makes sense because we talk about like kind of the ripples and the kind of things that can happen before you even get to the 20. But yeah, sometimes one of those ripples in the draft is basically another team taking the best available player.
Yeah.
Maybe you had them taking someone else, and that kind of changes your philosophy right now.
Right.
So there is kind of like what you're talking about, like how if you are of the mindset of like best available player, take him versus, hey, we're focusing on this position, and you might get out over your skis, like you said. There is some kind of draft discipline then for a GM.
Oh yeah,
and the whole organization, right?
And you never know how it's going to fall.
Yeah.
So like you don't know. Like they have a plan in place. They have grades on all these players.
Sure.
They know what the guys they want on their team, and they're also going to take calls from a team that wants to trade their picks.
Yeah.
And they're also, if they really love a guy, they might make a call and move up to get him.
Yeah.
They did move up to get Javonte Williams.
Yeah.
They moved up to get Marvin Mims.
And that shows you that they just love those guys right away.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't think that's out of the question for them to move up to get a guy. I wouldn't think if it's out of the question for them to trade that draft pick that they have.
Yeah.
If Shedeur Sanders falls
That was my next
to
question.
20.
Yeah.
They might be able to trade that pick.
Yep.
And get,
because I figured if he
some more
drops
for it.
that's going to add some chaos to the whole draft day, that first round.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it could happen. I mean, if he gets past 9,
But
the Saints.
Yep.
then there might not be anyone else to draft him. The Broncos might be, and there's some time there between 10 and 20. You get 5 minutes on the clock for each one, or something like that. So 10. I mean, you have an hour to figure to work the phones at least. Actually, I think it's more than 5 minutes on the first round. It's like 10 or 15.
Yeah,
maybe.
it just goes down. Yeah.
Yeah. So they like to stretch that out as long. It's like
It's
3
TV
hours.
show, baby.
Yeah, it's like
TV.
3 hours.
It's not a
between
draft.
big-
It's a TV show.
Yeah. So no, I think that the Broncos are going to be open to anything that could happen, with the idea that they're trying to bring in the best football players they can to come in here and compete. This team last year, going into last season, PFF, or as I call them, had this roster as the worst roster in the league.
Sure.
Number 32.
Yep.
They don't anymore, but it's the same players. Isn't it weird how
Crazy how that works.
you have to prove yourself? And I understand that. But they've now proven that these young players are talented and can succeed in this league. And yet some of these guys who we like will not be here this year because they'll be replaced by even better players.
Sure.
So you're going to create competition at every position, which you always do. And then you say, well, may the best man win, and let's go battle at training camp. And so they're going to draft a running back or two. They're going to draft a tight end no matter what.
Yep.
They're going to draft a corner and a D lineman and probably a receiver and like that kind of stuff. And so it's last year they talked about how the guys they drafted, they had, the 5th round draft they had a 3rd round draft grade on it.
Yeah.
The 4th rounder, they had a 2nd round draft grade.
Sure.
So if you do your due diligence,
there's value there.
There's value everywhere.
Yeah.
And as Sean Payton has said before, a lot of teams don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
We do.
Mm-hmm.
And we bank on them not knowing what they're doing,
Sure.
and guys falling to us that shouldn't have been there.
Well, I feel like we talked about the chaos of the draft. If stuff starts happening ahead of your pick and that kind of changes your mentality now, some of those draft rooms might be a little disorganized and might kind of panic.
Yeah. And Sean Payton is not going to panic.
Yeah. He's been there. It's not his first rodeo, Nate.
Not
second, maybe third, but not his first.
Second rodeo would be a good band name.
That'd be a great band name. I'd see them at the high dive.
Yeah. You might open up for them.
I would. They're not playing Red Rocks yet. They got to get their feet wet.
You're playing Red Rocks.
I'm saying they're not playing Red Rocks.
No, they're not.
No, they're at the high dive. They're at somewhere else, like maybe the
Do
Blue
comedians
Bird.
play Red Rocks ever?
Every now and then.
Yeah.
Bill Burr did it last year.
Bill Burr.
Yeah.
Are you a Bill Burr fan?
I am a Bill Burr fan. Who
Yeah.
isn't?
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah. The MAGA crowd, not real Bill Burr fans.
I mean, I don't know why they would be.
Yeah.
But they should be.
But he's supposed to make fun of everybody, right?
Exactly.
And they're like, you're supposed to make fun of everybody as a comedian. And if you can't, then you're not probably going to be a good comic.
No, we're not.
Unless you tell dad jokes.
Those are universal.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone loves those.
My wife called her OBGYN. She's like, hi, I'd like to order womb service.
Oh, my God. I almost did the Borat. My wife, I got at that point, but I realized I can't do that. Even though I just did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another thing I wanted to mention too, like before we get out of here, is I'm pretty sure this is the week that the rest of the team's coming back to work out.
Mm-hmm.
The Broncos. And as much as we focus on the draft, this team's success is really going to be about the team that's already in place.
Sure.
And they're reporting now to start running and lifting again.
Mm-hmm.
So, 20-30% of the team turns over.
Yeah.
And half of those guys are rookies, half are like, free agents and people from other teams. The core of this team is in place, and we know who these guys are. And they went 10-7 last year, and now they're reporting after the offseason, and they're coming back to run and lift. And I always really enjoyed that period of time myself because, shoot, man, you just get to come back with your buddies and lift weights and then go outside and run. Yeah, no coaches out there. And Sean Payton's philosophy is like the Bill Parcells And same as Mike Shanahan. The coaches aren't going to be there for the first month.
Yeah.
You guys are just going to be out there getting in shape
Sure.
together. Sweat, running in the hot sun, although it's freaking snowing. It snowed last night. And it's going to snow in a couple days too. What the heck?
I have a question for you. So when you were a player,
Yeah.
What did you have like a draft night celebration routine? Like, would you go with other teammates and watch the draft? How would you handle the draft?
No. Current players aren't wasting their time paying attention to that. I mean, maybe they do now because it's more saturated. It's a bigger deal now.
Sure.
It's more ubiquitous. We have these
more of a show.
Stupid things that are like, ooh, what you gonna do? What you do?
It's called a phone.
Know? Yeah. No, but like the social media aspect, you open
yeah.
your phone and you're getting bombarded.
Yep.
You know, your mentions, your this or that, your team, your all that crap. It's almost hard to avoid it. But I think players, by and large, veteran players in the NFL don't pay as much attention to the draft. They'll find out who was drafted, but they're not glued to the TV, I don't think.
Yeah.
You know, maybe, I don't know, maybe the young guys are. The guys who did it last year.
Who probably grew up
Bo
in this
Nix
kind
is probably gonna, you know, and those guys might.
Who probably grew up in social media and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but a guy who's like a 6, 7, 8 year vet in the league, he's not glued to the TV watching the draft. Of course, he's going to check out who his team drafted, especially
if it's
your own position. Yeah. I was always paying attention to that.
Yeah.
And that sucked, but it was also inevitable.
Sure.
Because you have 7 or 8 draft picks. There's gonna be someone at every position.
Sure.
And then they're gonna have free agent rookies come in, and you're gonna have competition at every position.
Yep.
There's always gonna be guys coming in to take your job. That's how it goes. You have to embrace that.
Yep.
And get ready for the long haul. Starting with the running and lifting, then the mini camps, the meetings, the practices, one practice at a time, one rep at a time. Sometimes you have bad practices.
Yeah.
You brush it off and you keep going. And it's really about a war of attrition and not, dwelling on one bad day you might have, but really proving that you can be a reliable, hardworking, good teammate who can go make plays when you're asked to, but can also do the little things the right way every day that are necessary for having a good team. It's not, there's only one football, and I know people focus on that ball and where Bo Nix is throwing and all that, but everyone's job is important on a football field, and the coaches know that, and so they're trying to have guys who can be reliable in all those positions.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it perfectly right there.
Well, thank you, Scott.
I think it was beautiful.
But the running and lifting stuff is real team building. In a way that's organic. You can't fake it. Like I said, no coaches around.
Yeah, you and the dude.
Low stress.
Yeah,
you push each other. You get strong.
Competition.
And you're also doing the same workout, which I think is really important. There was a time during COVID where players were urged to stay away from the facility, go train on your own. You have your own workout partners, your own trainers, and that didn't help the Broncos. And
just
the union rep at the time, Brandon McManus, was heavily involved in the union and was kind of one of the mouthpieces for them, and was articulating their idea that players should stay away from the facility.
Sure.
And part of this was COVID fear, but it was also leverage for the new CBA and all this crap and
little politicking.
It was politicking, and it didn't help the Broncos build a good team.
Yeah.
Their team was bad, and it was largely because they didn't play as a team.
Yeah.
And to play as a team, you got to know one another. You got to sweat together. You got to be involved in the same workouts, know what each other are made of, push each other further every single day. And that's what the Broncos are going to be doing here. And so I'm excited for this new season. Of course, the draft is next week, but the Broncos are reporting this week and starting to train together as a team and build on that 10-7 record they had last year. Yeah.
I think it's a way more kind of hopeful outlook than last year, because you just never knew what Bo Nix was going to give you. Now you've had a whole season,
sophomore season, baby. Yep. Now's the year they take over the AFC West, right?
I mean, I think you got it in you.
Oh, we do. Well, I mean, absolutely blasted the Chiefs last year in the last game of the year. What was it, 41-0 or 38-0? Something like that.
Didn't play our starters.
Yeah, well, doesn't matter,
I was at that game.
You were?
Yeah.
Yeah, how did it feel?
Honestly, by the time we got to our nosebleed seats, it was already 14-0, and then by halftime, me and my friends were downstairs drinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you didn't have to write drink on your
No, I didn't.
You knew what to do.
Double gin and tonic, guys. Can I have one, please?
I want to give a shout out to Dominic for following along. We appreciate you, Dominic.
What's up, Dominic?
That's right. Good morning, my locos. Good morning, Dominic.
I love Dom.
Yeah.
Can we call him Dom?
Dom.
Dom.
We can call him Dom. Thanks for joining us, Dom. And thanks for joining me,
Hey,
Paul.
it's
Scotty.
been a fun one.
Yeah.
Do we wrapping this bad boy up?
Wrapping it up like a Christmas present.
I didn't think you were going to say Christmas present.
Well, what do you think I was going to say?
Condom.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
What's that?
I don't know. Well, yeah, you have 2 kids.
Oh,
What is it?
stop. All right. Well, hey, yeah.
That's all field for us, guys. Nate Jackson, Scott Shaffer. Join us next week. We'll be back.
Later.
Wish flower.